All right, we see people are coming in. We're going to let you guys filter in a little bit. What's up, everybody? We're going to let a couple more people come in. Let us know if you can hear us.
Yeah.
In the chat, let us know if you can hear us before we start, since we have a history of audio problems.
A short history.
A brief but colorful history.
Somebody give us a quick confirmation of sound.
All right. I was able to hear us.
Okay,
all.
good. That's all we need.
So I think we're good.
All right.
You can hear us. All good.
All right, guys. Well, welcome back to Jedi Jive. My name is Mike, and I have some guests today. Joining me again from All New Nerds are Dylan and John. What's up, dudes?
What's up, everybody?
Thanks
for
for
having
coming
us.
on again.
Thank you for having us.
Very special guest, my sister Jenny, who you guys have been introduced to on the Wandavision reaction series. She's excited to be here. What's up, Jenny?
Not much.
Nice. Yeah, Jenny has some fans on this channel, so now's your chance to show Jenny your love.
I love you guys back.
Okay, so we're going to do some more WandaVision discussion today. And episode 7 was a banger. I don't know what you guys thought, but this was definitely a meaty episode, I would say. There was a lot. There was a lot of meat in this one. I think there was one, we were all probably pretty much let down by the fact that Monica's guy didn't end up being a guy at all or anybody significant.
Anyone?
Yeah.
There's still potential that that machine was built by somebody and that we'll get a name drop or something, but as Jenny said, that was kind of a red herring. We were kind of led astray there. So
I mean, I think it's deliberately a red herring, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to show up in future, even within WandaVision, let alone like in another property. This could be one of those things where like the hint got dropped during WandaVision and like next year we're going to find out through some other film who she was talking about. I mean, it doesn't mean he's never coming or we're never going to find out who she's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might
For
even
sure.
get that specific vehicle. You might even see that vehicle appear. Because like the MCU timeline doesn't necessarily seem to be linear. Like I know Spider-Man Far From Home is supposed to be like in the future from now. Yeah, so
About
they're
8
not really
months,
doing
yeah.
it in order necessarily. We might see that vehicle in another property or something.
Yeah, and
she
the
said it-
spacesuit. And the spacesuit.
Because I think the thing that confirmed that it wasn't like Reed Richards or some special character for me was that she said like this is our best like space whatever. So it was something that already existed, like a piece of equipment that they already had,
But she
not
also
something that they built specifically for this.
She
Say
also
again?
asked her if it met her specs. So she had provided them, you know, it needs to have this molecular whatever. She gave them and maybe they used a vehicle they already had or like souped up a vehicle they already had, but somebody was involved in consulting about these specs that she sent them.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well, I hope so. I hope that's the case. And then along the lines of like the red herring theme, there was a mid-credit scene which unfortunately Jenny and I missed in our reaction. I went back and saw it, and a lot of people had made me like alarmed, made me think that it was like something huge. But I personally didn't think it was a very significant scene because I think that's just going to be another red herring. I think the next episode is just going to start right there. I mean, it's like Quicksilver wasn't like Snooper's going to snoop, and then he bashed her over the head. It was like Snoop is going to snoop, and that was it. And she was just like, I think he's just going to be the same character that we've seen him be for the last couple episodes. Just kind of like, you know, he
There was
doesn't
one
really
thing.
know.
There was one thing. It's a little minor thing. It did look like Monica's eyes turned a little purple.
In that moment.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, she did. Her spectrum eyes came out. But like, I agree with you, Mike. I didn't think it was like the hugest deal in the world. We already kind of know from the episode that he's being controlled or puppeted or some version of that by Agatha Harkness. It's unclear, I'd say, whether he's actually like a dead version of Quicksilver who's being, corpse brided the way that Vision is, or if he's just alive Quicksilver and is under a spell. I don't think we know for sure.
Yeah.
But he's definitely, he's around her house now. Like she's got some sort of control over him.
Yeah, it is interesting they put that in an after credits scene. And we didn't get any Quicksilver that whole episode except for that. I remember I didn't see the end credit or mid credit, whatever. After either, I texted Johnny and I was like, "Where Quicksilver at?" And he's like, "Did you see the end credit?" And I rushed over to the TV and put it back on. Yeah, but yeah,
guys...
they're just gonna show it again, I think, at the beginning of the next episode.
I think it's exactly. I think it's just gonna be like they're gonna double it up and have that be the first scene in the next episode.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can ask Jenny. Like, Jenny, don't I? After every single WandaVision episode, I check.
This is the first time that we haven't checked.
The very first time
funny.
I didn't do that. It was like, all right, they're not doing that in this show. But
Yeah.
I guess it was just an unfortunate irony that I missed.
And now next week we're going to be like, watch it meticulously, and there's going to be nothing there. And it's so
not a thing.
So mean.
Yeah.
Although this is like episodes 8 and 9 of 9, so we're pretty much anticipating these to be pretty big events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would be more than
there's
surprised if there isn't an end credit scene after the end.
Right.
Yeah.
They got a lot to wrap up. They got a
They
lot
do.
to answer and kind of like make sense of.
2 episodes left.
Yeah,
possibly
not just that.
possibly a third, but
Like I had
But that's
pointed out
rumored.
that like at the very beginning of the show, they made it seem like Dottie was this really important character, and then she just hasn't really been around for like 5 episodes.
Yeah.
We saw like one glimpse of her in this episode for like a second. But some people had theorized that like when at the beginning when Wu was mentioning that he was looking for a missing person and there was like a witness protection situation, and the whole missing person turned into a whole missing town.
Yeah.
Dottie might be that missing person. Obviously, she could be another witch.
Yeah, right.
Theories about her. I've seen that same theory that she could be like Wu's missing person. I've seen like maybe she's working for some other Avenger or some other powered person. I've seen like 3 or 4 theories about her. I feel it does seem there are a couple characters where it feels like something's up, and she's one of them. I just think back to like that Stepford Wives for the children scene where Wu started talking through the radio, and she freaked out and broke a glass, and then her blood was red, and that was one of the first moments in the series where we went, ooh, like something happened. She freaked out. Something was going on there. There's also definitely something up with that mailman. He knows.
Yeah, actually,
yes,
if you
there
look at
is.
the chat, Charmed Original says Ralph, Agatha's husband, is 100% the mailman. That's a possibility. Because
the mailman.
he's always delivering packages. So what's he delivering?
He's always around when like something's going down with Agatha. He was there like at that moment right before she killed the dog. He was there and he was like, "Oh, your mom let the dog get far," and it seemed like one of those acknowledgments that like he knew that Wanda was a witch, or he knew that she won't let it happen. How does he know that she has that power or that control? So it was one of the first times I noticed that like something was up with him, and then he was there during that whole weird scene, just kind of standing.
Yeah, he was following Agatha at the end when she was leading Wanda into her house. But one thing that, especially in this episode, that kind of threw me was we know Senior Scratchy is a bunny, and in the comics, Agatha has a son named Scratch, and on his hat was a bunny. So I think that he might be Agatha's son.
Yeah. As Dylan said, though, it just seems like there's so much to wrap up.
Rabbit, and she sends it
Right.
out.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think so.
There's a couple more. Hustle Mandalorian says, "I'm still like the name. I'm still holding out hope. He's for X-Men Quicksilver and is just Fox X-Men Quicksilver, and he's just being controlled by Agatha." Yeah, I mean, I think everybody hopes that it's really Quicksilver and not like a bad guy imposter.
I think it is. And it's just being controlled by Agatha.
Suggest that maybe Quicksilver and Spectrum or Photon, whatever we're going to end up calling her, are going to have a little mini battle, and then Spectrum will like hand him his ass or something, and then they'll team up against Agatha. Or
That'd be
possible.
Cool. Yeah.
Stephanie says, "Will there be a final battle with Wanda, Vision, the boys, Monica, Darcy, and fake Pietro against Agatha?" Yeah,
Most likely.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
That would be great.
I want to see it. That'd be
Most
just
likely.
visually like spectacular. You
We're
got
supposed
like
to
two of the
have
most
a big-
powerful Avengers going up against each other.
Yeah. But then it goes
Supposed to be a
back to like
fight.
what we were talking about
Or
last
with
week
each other.
with like, is this like a one and done series? Are they just doing 9 episodes of WandaVision and then that's it for this particular scenario? Or
Right.
and then, you know, MCU just goes story to story to story.
The only restriction they have, and I think we talked about this last week, is the Spider-Man and the fact that like it's not brought up at all, or like no one mentioned. So it can't be like too catastrophic unless it really delves into the multiverse stuff, where it's like this all ends up being part of a whole nother universe or something like that.
And we know that this is supposed to lead right into the next Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah.
True,
So
which is Multiverse
in
of Madness,
interviews,
so-
the director
And
Matt
what-
Jackman said that
So
the story is supposed to be in this season. The story will be done, so it's not going to be a continuation into other projects.
Okay, and then there's one. Oh yeah, Oathkeeper 1995 says Monica's photon spectrum eyes are blue, but at the end in the mid-credit scene, her eyes are purple.
Purple.
Wanda's word, yeah. So like,
Right.
Agatha had some type of magical control over Wanda in her basement that made Wanda like turn purple and look entranced or whatever.
That's
so it's
what I meant.
possible
Yeah.
that Quicksilver is doing, if he's not Quicksilver, if he's also a witch in disguise or Mephisto in disguise, that he's got photon under his spell too now. Or
Interesting.
spectrum. Yeah.
one of the
That's a
things
good
we had
point. I
talked
didn't think about
this
that.
is a side issue, side point, but one of the things that we had talked about, and I don't know if it made it into our cut, Mike, is that I don't know if anyone, I know that in the comics, Monica has been referred to as both photon and spectrum at different times. I don't know if anyone noticed in earlier in the series when Monica first arrived at Sword to meet with director Hayward, her mother's plaque, her mother's picture was on the wall and it said Maria Photon Rambo. So they've
It's
made
going to be Photon.
her call sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I like both names. I think Photon
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
Photon's dope, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's going to be in Captain Marvel too, so
Photon.
that'll be we'll see
I
her.
think, isn't one of her
Powered
one
up.
of her superpowers is supposed to be like she can move at the speed of light, right? Because she's
Yeah.
made of light. So like that might be her versus Quicksilver. That's why I thought that might be an interesting matchup because they both have super speed.
That is
But-
interesting. Yeah.
I wouldn't think that Monica would have full like agency over her own powers like already like the
No.
day that she changes into being a
Right.
superhero.
Yeah. No,
that
it's
she would, like,
definitely going
know
to take
how
some
to-
time.
Yeah, she's
The
gonna have
early
to learn
stages.
the extent of her abilities.
Hmm.
Does she also have like energy? Like, can she like throw energy? Like,
Yeah,
Wanda
like
can?
blast. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
noticed like when Wanda like levitated Photon or Monica up in the air and then like brought her back down, it looked like Monica could fight back if she wanted to. It looked like she was letting Wanda throw her around a little bit because she was trying to communicate with her. But it did look like they might be implying that Photon might be like a good match in a battle against Wanda because of the like her properties or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
We'll see.
She yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think there's definitely, as we were saying a while ago, I think there's definitely going to be a big battle at the end with everybody. And I was just thinking about the kids. What do we think happened to the kids? Because they just kind of vanished after going into
Yeah.
Agatha's house in that weird
Yeah.
scene before Wanda came.
Well,
like
if we're
the-
following, if we're following comic stuff, then Mephisto needs the kids' souls for
Mephisto
whatever reason.
theory.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't think Agatha's the big bad, just because I think it's way too obvious.
Yeah.
And Mephisto's been rumored like before the show even started.
And we still
So-
haven't met Ralph. We hear about him.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
also made Agatha likable too, or Agnes likable, so she's not going to be like an evil, malevolent person. I don't think, because like doesn't she also
We'll
play
see.
like sort of like a mentor figure to Wanda in the comics? Like,
Yes.
she may actually like teach her some new magic that she
Yes.
doesn't know already, kind of stuff. Like we did see that Necronomicon looking book and stuff, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way they're not going to open that book and get
That
spicy.
book
Some-
is
yeah.
big, yeah.
That's
That
a
was evil, man.
prop's done. You don't introduce like a prop that huge without intending to use
Yeah.
it.
There's
Yeah, so
something up with that. for
I
sure.
think that she's going to be like she definitely has she's she's a wicked witch, but at the same time I don't think she's going to be like 100% malevolent.
Do we all think that she's working for Mephisto, or like
That's
under
the hope.
Mephisto?
Or
yeah.
that's
I think.
It seems very likely. It seems that Ralph might even be Mephisto.
Yeah.
We haven't met him because like they were in her house, the twins, and then just vanished.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
My
holding
current-
on to that reveal for They've been holding on for that for so long. And Paul Bettany, so there was a Esquire interview this week. Paul Bettany saying, he said it a while ago too, that there's this big actor that he's wanted to work with for the longest time, and we're gonna see him soon. It's gonna be a big reveal.
I saw some people online yesterday saying that they thought that it's misleading, and they think it's going to be Carol Danvers or something. That because this show has some connections to Captain Marvel, as obviously Monica clearly has connections to Carol Danvers. That those two characters are going to have to reconcile at some point, especially since it seems as though Carol Danvers probably left Maria Rambo, like, not to die, but like she had cancer and then left the planet or whatever.
Yeah, I think
so Monica may even not be happy with Carol Danvers because of that.
Yeah, no, she's pissed at her. She's pissed at her for sure. So I think that's definitely going to be explored in Captain Marvel 2 for sure. I think that's
Doctor Strange. Everyone's pretty sure like that's the cameo is probably. So I mean, you got Doctor Strange, you got potentially Carol Danvers. And then potentially like an X-Men figure like Magneto or Professor X.
Yeah.
But
that's we saw that interview as well. We've discussed it in our episodes before. And at the end of the day, that's something that he's been like instructed to say. Like 100%.
Right. It's true.
Marvel, the publicity team said like drop that little Easter egg conversation, because then people like us spend 900 hours on the internet like
we make them the money
doing this.
Yeah.
It could be an existing character. It could be somebody who's playing Mephisto that's like an amazing actor that we haven't.
I think that's the idea.
Well,
it could literally be anything.
That's the power. It's the power of the week-to-week episodes too.
Like Brie Larson or something. She's an Oscar winner, but it could also be somebody that we have no idea that's coming. A new character.
There's also a large group of people online on YouTube who are like not Brie Larson fans. So if she the large cameo,
she's ruining Star Wars.
Some backlash.
Go to those videos.
I'm not gonna care. Oh, this is actually really interesting. Hustle Mandalorian said maybe they can just throw some water on Agatha in the finale. It's funny you say that though, because I think there was a specific scene that's going to be very important when Agatha came in and the babies were crying. They couldn't get him to sleep. She started spraying lavender, and she was like, "My husband Ralph sprays this on me every night to calm me down."
Interesting.
You know, and she said it obviously like in a sexual way. She was trying to do but really that might end up being important. That they might need lavender in order to subdue Agatha, because she came out with that. Like, why would they put that detail in there if it wasn't?
Here's my thing with Ralph. Like yes, like I do think he could be Mephisto. Like that's a good theory. I just think like Agnes being Agatha was already so obvious, like to like everyone pretty much that knows even a little bit about the comics or is like involved with like watching theories and stuff. I feel like Ralph is just so obviously Mephisto that they're just kind of throwing that a curveball. You know what I mean?
I saw somebody else mention how obviously we've theorized that the bunny could be Mephisto, but obviously you just said her son's name is Scratch too in the comics, so that might be her son. But there was that cicada on the window, and that was kind of a detail that was thrown in there. Like, and if we talked before about how Mephisto is a shapeshifts into animals mostly. So things like that cicada, like why is that detail? Like obviously there's like a pestilence on the house, like it's supposed to be like dark magic and it's supposed to give you that horror, dark feeling. But I think might also be a sign of Mephisto himself.
That's interesting.
Cool.
Well,
I don't know the significance of that. That was.
I think I was reading somewhere on it, like it was just an Instagram post, that Mephisto originally showed up in Marvel as like a fly, like that was his like.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either,
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So they were. Charmed Original says, "Do we think Billy and Tommy were already dead when WandaVision premiered, and they are just a part of Wanda's vision?" Or her perfect? No, I think they were created in the Hex.
They're her children.
Yeah. But whether or not Agatha is gonna steal their souls or kill them in the Hex, and then they'll have to, I don't know. I don't know, like the idea of killing children. But then again, they have been aging up fairly fast. They may age up one more time.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, like they were used as bait by Agatha to get Wanda into the basement, and now she's under her spell. But we didn't actually see Tommy and Billy. Like where did they go? And my immediate reaction was, oh well, she's got like the boys trapped, and she can use them as a way of like getting stuff out of Wanda, like demanding that Wanda like use her magic to like help her summon Mephisto or whatever, or she'll harm the children somehow, or she'll I
mean, they're an emotional bargaining chip, but they're also a magical bargaining chip because they have powers that could be weaponized potentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're strong.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's more than one way that those guys are a bargaining chip.
Yeah, let's think back to like that last scene though with the kids and especially Billy was like, it's I think he says something along the lines like it was comfy here and it's quiet. Yeah, something like that.
But
So
I mean, because he kept going on earlier about how noisy it was. He kept saying everything, and I take that to mean that he's psychic in some way. He can hear people's thoughts.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, because she's a witch or she's I don't know, she's enchanted herself or some witchy reason he can't hear her thoughts. And so he was like, I like it here. It's quiet, which feels like it has to be significant. There's something that's leading to something.
Yeah. Well, because, yeah, at the beginning of the episode, he, like, tells Wanda that, like, it's noisy in his head and stuff like that. Or he says something along those lines, like, when she's sleeping.
That he can hear everyone's thoughts usually, but then in Agnes's house, all of that quiets down. Or that, as Jenny said, like, he couldn't hear Agatha's thoughts.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe that's
so it's quiet
true.
around her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that going to lead to potentially like Billy being like, "No, Mom, I like it here," or something like, you know, Agatha shows me things, or she's nice to me, or
ooh, yeah.
She could get them to like her. You know.
My idea is
Right.
I think they're with whoever Ralph is right now.
Yeah. That'll be in the
something
beginning of the next episode.
Or something with
hopefully.
the book. Something with the book. Something.
Yeah.
There's got to be like something with souls. So
You're gonna read some spells and summon some evil shit.
the idea is that that book is called The Darkhold. It's been in the MCU before in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know too much about it because I haven't seen the show, but that's the idea. Okay.
So Darkhold, yeah, that was a big plot line. That was basically like the central plot line of the Ghost Rider section of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I'm trying to remember, like, at the end they destroyed it.
Oh.
At the end of that storyline.
Hmm.
So, but that's also, I mean, that's one of those things that could just be like, I don't know, maybe there's another version of this book, or there's some.
Well, considering we got X-Men's Quicksilver in, I feel like anything can show up or come back,
Right.
you know?
Right, exactly.
So if Agatha does end up being not necessarily like the big bad, but like she does, like if we don't get like a Mephisto introduction or a, you know, a Nightmare or a Grim Reaper introduction, are you guys going to be bummed that, you know, or it doesn't really matter as long as the story itself is compelling, then we don't need to rely on character reveals in order to enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, but I think like
But bring it on.
Yeah, that and just the amount of like teasing they've done, especially on the Mephisto side. The Grim Reaper thing was interesting in that little animation for the intro of episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, we really haven't got anything with that.
Did somebody also spot like a Galactus helmet in the floorboards in that same animation? I saw somebody point out that there was like a helmet with like.
Yeah, that's Grim Reaper's helmet.
One,
that's the Grim Reaper's helmet.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's why
Galactus like that has horns. Or,
it's similar to that. But the amount of devil-related stuff and like demon.
Well, and even the Darkhold is a thing in the scope of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was something that really stood out because that show was very committed to like the technicalities of the sci-fi. Like it was very about, like the technology and the science and all of this. And the Ghost Rider storyline, including the Darkhold, was the most sort of mystical and magic that show ever went. It sort of stuck out like a sore thumb because like Robbie Reyes is talking about how Ghost Rider is a demon from hell and it's the devil himself and he possessed me, and all the folks in the field are like, that's ridiculous, magic is fake, we like science here. And but it does, I mean, it was this thing that never got really explained in a scientific or pseudoscientific way. It was this like hell magic even within the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. world. So that's yet another thing that has like this hell overtone, devil overtone, which we keep getting. Like we keep little bits of that.
It's been way too much to not be significant.
Even the shit Pietro says, he keeps going like demon spawn.
Yeah.
Like hell stuff.
Hustle Mando says maybe Agatha put kids somewhere in the multiverse. Potentially, but I guess then Agatha would have to have access to those dimensions, which we're kind of assuming that somebody like Doctor Strange is going to be the guy that's in control of that kind of stuff. That like Wanda is like inadvertently making potentially like portals or pathways, or rifts into like other dimensions, but that somebody like Doctor Strange is gonna have to come in order to like clean up her mess or to like make sense of it.
Patch it up.
With Doctor Strange, I think that like, it's obviously the show has a giant threat with like Agatha and everything, but I think what would really set it over, because Doctor Strange deals with like reality ending situations, like we got that in the first Doctor Strange, like that was huge. Dormammu stuff. So I think with the introduction of Mephisto, that would give a perfect reason. Obviously, Agatha's powerful, but not to the extent of Mephisto. Mephisto coming in, Strange would come, and I think that's what was probably.
Jenny and I were actually talking yesterday about Dormammu, and we were like kind of talking about how like, wow, that's actually kind of like a similar concept to Galactus in a way. It's this like being that comes and like wants to like swallow the earth almost, but it's different. And like Dormammu like isn't really this like hyped up character, but it was like it seemed like a really big threat. Like a really big threat.
He's
like
huge.
not that's like I mean like Thanos and all those characters.
Keep in mind that the little commercial we saw this week that was hilarious. It was like the
Nexus.
That was good. Yeah, that was
like
well done.
I think that's like an interdimensional kind of hub. It is a nexus. It's like a multiple dimension.
Nick Fury mentions Nexus. Right?
He mentioned it exactly.
Yeah.
That's like a hub, a nexus where multiple dimensions meet. That's like the door to all possible dimensions. I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, comics folks in the comments, please. But I think that you need to have an enormous amount of power, like a huge,
like Wanda,
potentially like Wanda or like Doctor Strange. I mean,
or Carol Danvers.
Not just any average Avenger has that much power. Right. Like you have to have an enormous amount of like mystical power to be able to travel through that nexus or to nexus effectively. So again, like there are very few people, potentially Wanda, Carol Danvers, Doctor Strange, and then like some big bads, like some celestial beings or like Dormammu, who would be able to control.
Do we already know who the big bad is supposed to be in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse movie?
No, but it's rumored that it's Nightmare, and he's similar to Mephisto.
Yeah.
But he deals more in the dream realm and like dreamscape stuff.
Because it's funny. Jenny was here yesterday, and I pulled out my Marvel cards from when I was a kid, and one of the characters that's depicted with Doctor Strange a bunch in battle is Baron Mordo.
He was in the movie.
He was in the first Doctor Strange movie.
Yep.
Who was Baron Mordo?
I forget the actor's name.
Oh wait, it wasn't Mads Mikkelsen?
You had Legend before. No.
What is it?
Was that the character?
I forget the guy's. I'm sorry, I forget the actor's name. I'll look it up. But yeah, no, he was like the sidekick. Not the sidekick, but hold on. Let me
Hugh Ejiofor, he's an English actor.
Yes. Yeah,
and he sort of turned into a bad guy at the end, and it seemed
that's
like
Baron Mordo. Yeah.
Bad guy.
Yeah. There is a rumor. There was a theory thrown around that he might be involved in it, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that how they left it in Doctor Strange was that he's just gonna.
There are so many Barons in the Marvel universe. There's Baron Strucker, Baron Mordo, Baron Zemo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zemo is gonna be sick in Falcon and Winter Soldier. By the way, I cannot wait.
Oh yeah, I love that actor.
In Civil War, he never actually wore the purple mask, right?
Yes.
No,
there's a theory on why he's wearing it now is because it's similar to Thanos.
Or you see him carrying the mask in the trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And he has on the poster,
Yep.
So we'll actually get like a look, like in the same way that we got like the original Scarlet Witch look in this. We'll get the Baron Zemo in the purple outfit.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great. Yeah, very excited about that. But anyways, speaking of that, you were talking about Scarlet Witch's costume. I think she's getting a full new suit with the headdress, like an MCU stylized type suit with the headdress at the end of the show, which is gonna be pretty
nice.
Cool. That'll probably transfer into Doctor Strange too. Also, apparently this is gonna be how she gets the title of Scarlet Witch. I don't know, whatever she does or whoever says it, I think that's gonna be how. So
definitely that, because there was that moment when Hayward was like, doesn't she have a funny name too, or whatever, when they were everyone was like, well, we know it, but she was only ever referred to as Wanda in the Avengers, and we've been seeing like her comic book persona emerge bit by bit in this show.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how this, like, it's WandaVision and we're still following Wanda and Vision, but like they like Feige has very sneakily snuck in the Monica Rambeau Photon origin story to this show, so that like this is like in a way like Monica Rambeau is like the alternate protagonist of this show, and it's more about her almost at the moment.
Yeah,
Or
I could be on that.
They're sort of sharing the role of protagonist.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely served as an origin story, and she's going to be an ongoing character from here on out.
Oh yeah, she's gonna be pretty big, especially in this phase. This is one thing that I think a lot of people haven't been talking about. I mean, it wasn't anything too huge, but what did we think about Vision and Darcy?
Yeah,
Little team up. Yeah,
as yeah, definitely.
Just I mean, it was kind of interesting because I guess Vision knows like the events of Infinity War and Endgame now, which is kind of interesting. But
that was a great scene between Vision and Darcy.
They had some good scenes together, though. It was interesting that
we talked about this, Mike, and it was something that we cut out of the edit. You know, we can't include everything, guys. Sorry, but we did discuss that scene. I loved that scene. That was like my favorite scene in the whole episode for like purely sort of drama nerdy reasons. I mean, they had this theatrical exposition where they do a little quick recap for anyone who's not like up to date on their Infinity Game Avengers Endgame story, you know, Infinity War Endgame story.
Right.
That like little quick recap for you, but it's a quick recap for him, for the character. So it was that like dramatic exposition, but and it was funny because Kat Dennings is hilarious. But despite all of that, I found that to be like a really sincere scene. Like the emotions were real. And when she said, "Oh, you know, I can tell that you two truly love each other," and I just found that to be like a really heartwarming.
She said she'd been watching the show all week, and like you guys' love is real.
Yeah.
Like she said, you guys belong together. That hopefully that's like a hint of good things to come. In that like this doesn't all end terribly.
Right. Yeah.
Or it could be to set up making it more devastating.
Well, so they did mention that they were, or the FBI or SWORD or whatever was trying to bring Vision back, right, and use him as a weapon, basically. But that was their plan. So obviously, we know it is possible for him to be alive, you know, even after being brutally murdered by Thanos. So I think it's possible. It can happen.
Yeah. And Billy and Tommy are the two, like, the main examples of, like, well, they were created in the Hex. Can they exist outside the Hex? Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, if it comes down to, like, whether or not, like, Vision gets to stay alive or, like, the boys get to stay alive, like, obviously, they'll be like, we want our children to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that'll supersede their love or, like, their desire to stay together. But as we were talking about, or like Vision when he's like doing his little confessional box interview before, he's like, wait, what am I doing here?
Why am I here?
Yeah, that was great.
He points out like, well, to Wanda, like all of this like Endgame stuff was like 2 weeks ago, and like, you know, she has like a frame of reference. For me, like this is all brand new. So it did seem like he's not actually Vision. He's like Vision 2.0. He's his own person now with his own brief, you know, albeit brief history.
Right.
Inside of this bubble, so like that's the only context he has, is within the Hex.
But what's really interesting about that, and again, this is such a like soft core kind of nerdy thing to say, but like despite all of that, despite having no context and no memory, like he still loves her. Like they're meant to be together,
that's the one thing he's got.
Realities. They're like cosmically each other's destiny or something, and it's so one of the things that'll be interesting to see is how that plays out. Like, do they have to shift into another dimension, another reality again? Like, what do they have to do to be able to be together without tearing the world apart?
Right.
Yeah.
A part of me almost hopes, and this will sound morbid, but part of me almost hopes Vision doesn't get out of it for the sake of like this story, I guess, because you know Wanda really does have to move on from this, and that's Monica mentions that, and that's kind of the theme that we're getting is that you can't, you gotta, you know, go through the stages of grief. But as far as characters go in the overarching story, I do want to see Vision more. Vision's a cool character. He's super powerful. So I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted about where they're gonna go with it.
A lot of people in the comments are asking about Darcy and if we think she's going to get superpowers now to some degree because
and
what about, you know, people passing through the barrier in general? I saw somebody else mention that circus guy that was telling them that she was the one that Darcy punched. Like somebody said he looks a lot like Wonder Man. If you've ever seen the Wonder Man character,
I think her costume looked kind of like Wonder Man's.
Did
if
it?
anything, Darcy's costume.
Yeah. Did it have like a red thing here, and then it was blue?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
she might end up. Somebody pointed out like, oh, she punched that dude, and it looked like, dang, did she get some kind of super strength possibly? But we did determine though that Monica had to go through 3 times. In order to twice just got her like
the thing about that is that I think that amazing armored space vehicle that's like the best thing NASA and the Air Force have couldn't even touch it. I think I'm fairly certain that the only reason Monica was able to make it in the first place without being torn to pieces was because she had already gone through twice. Had already like begun that cellular process when the barrier was just a normal barrier. The reason she was able to make it through like the super barrier, the big scary red firewall, was because like her cells had already metamorphosed on some fundamental level, and that like and she still almost came apart. Like we saw her sort of personality disintegrating as she went through, and she was like just able by the skin of her teeth to get through. And I think like any other person wouldn't be able to do that like multiple times probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do with time spent in the hex as well? Like, do you think all these people that have been in there for like a while now since the beginning are gonna also come out with powers?
That comes back to the whole, how much of the House of M are they gonna be like flipping on its head? Are these everyone that's been in the hex gonna be a mutant? Is this gonna be the start of mutation?
Well, and I also go back to another commercial.
Depending on how much more she expands her bubble, right?
Like, we also loved that Yo Magic commercial last week, because again, that was hilariously funny. Like, Mike and I grew up in the 90s. Like, that is so good. But the guy couldn't open the yogurt, and he wasted away from like magical hunger of some kind, and he just turned into a corpse. And I have to imagine, I mean, every single one of these commercials is very significant, as silly as they are. I really found myself wondering like who that refers to. Is that like Wanda and Vision like being drained by their own illusion? Is that the people in the town who can't live under magical circumstances forever? Like I really was wondering like, who does that little skeleton boy stand in for? And what does that mean about like the effect of this hex, of this spell on the people inside it?
I think it looks, I mean, even the character, like the little the kid in the commercial kind of looked like Billy a little bit, and that was kind of the idea that I've seen thrown around, is that it was something to do with Billy, especially because I think right after that he got his powers. So so that was a little interesting. I don't know. I mean, I think it's more metaphorical for like there's like some just like untouchable magic, and I think that maybe has something to do with the book that we now know about, and just it's definitely something along those lines, but not entirely sure.
There's some dark stuff. I mean, we had, this is another thing, Mike, that I don't think made it on camera, but that we have discussed, which is that they've talked about initially there were no children in Westview. Vision pointed out conveniently the next week it was Halloween and there were like 80 children. And Evan Peters, Quicksilver, made this kind of offhand comment, but he was like, oh, I see what you did. You kept the kids out of sight. You kept the couples together. And he was complimenting her. He was like, it's a good thing. But I take that to mean is that there are physical children there, just like there are physical adults who are innocent bystanders who have been like kept in stasis in their beds or wherever. Like we saw the folks on the outskirts of town who were just sort of in a loop doing simple recursive functions, like in a video game. I mean, that's exactly what that is, honestly. It's like a game or a VR. If you make it far enough and you get to the outskirts of like what's been built out or what's been designed, there is some little recursive.
There's gonna be some glitches.
Do we have any idea of what kind of time frame we're working with inside the hex? Has this been like, because the way they make it seem like Vision's like, oh, every day I walk to work or whatever, but to us it seems like it's been a couple of days even. But like, do we have any kind of sense of how much time that this has been going on? Because if those people are frozen on the edge of town, and they're not actually sustaining themselves with like by eating and drinking or whatever.
And we've established that like
how long can you actually live
on the monitor is the same thing we see. They only see these little half-hour episodes, and presumably what's happening in the middle is that so far Wanda has been like rearranging the furniture, changing the aesthetic. Vision even made an allusion to it. He said like, oh, you want me to go to bed so you can change everything around or whatever it is. Like that there is some really dark stuff. She's definitely keeping people like in stasis or in a loop or stuck.
Yeah,
for sure.
While she arranges things around them, and that's super dark, guys.
Stephanie made a good point. She says if she expanded it, those people are not on the edge anymore, but the circus is, and they were very active. So she's confused about that. That is a very good point.
True.
So necessarily, like their proximity to the edge doesn't like automatically result in them being frozen like that. Yeah, that's a good point.
But do you think because Wanda expanded the hex and therefore she has to like put more power into it? Other than her just kind of losing her mind, do you think that's why everything around her and like in her house was shifting and changing because she wasn't able to keep her area contained? You know, she had to also she had to account for Vision, who's out there, who knows where. She has to make sure it's all looking real and trying to keep him under the illusion.
Right.
Yeah,
that was interesting too, because I mean, even like Wanda was saying, like, I have no idea what's happening, which I thought was kind of funny.
It's all falling apart.
I feel like it's something to do with Agatha, because then she kind of swoops in around that time and stuff. And
David Yu says, is it possible that the people around the edge are actually controlled by Agatha in order to trick Vision to leave the hex? I don't see why that wouldn't be possible.
Possibly.
Because we were sort of fooled by Agatha. Some people did, when we saw Agatha in her car, and Vision was like, waking her up. Some people were like, I don't believe her. I think she's faking it. And it turned out she was faking it.
Yeah.
So those people were right about that.
Yeah.
So she was on the edge of town there for no reason, other than potentially to do that, to mess with Vision, to mess with...
I think it was...
Do you think she's trying to turn them against each other, like, naturally? Because I feel like, I guess maybe Vision's too powerful for her to take charge, but...
At first, it was clear that she was trying to get them to procreate, because she was, like, trying to get them their romantic night together, and then doing that whole, like...
From the first episode.
Like,
children.
Yeah, she wanted them to get together so that they would make children or whatever, but...
I'm still pretty convinced that that's like the long game of whoever's acting.
Yeah. But now that the children exist, I suppose anything's possible. Like, maybe she wants Vision out of the picture because he's a physical threat to,
I also, like,
or turn him against Wanda.
Early on, before we knew all about what was happening at Sword, Mike, you and I had like theorized early on that we had thought that Monica had been sent there to keep her stable. And I actually think that that's sort of what Agatha, now that we know Monica's full story and whatever, I actually think that's kind of what Agatha's been doing. She's been trying to like maintain stability until she gets what she wants, which is these kids. But we've like throughout that, like when Wanda has sort of heightened senses or a heightened sense of emotion or something, that she loses control. Like when she was having contractions, the whole town, the lights went crazy, or when her water else's pipes burst. So like her, personal, physical and emotional fluctuations affect the environment around her. And so this whole thing of like, she's kind of having a nervous breakdown. She doesn't know what's going on. Her husband's not obeying her rules anymore. She's like losing control, emotionally, but also magically. And we saw like her house sort of glitching and she couldn't keep control over things.
Yeah, the walls were like going crazy.
The walls were going crazy. And like, is Agatha as invested in keeping the stability or with what happens to Wanda and Vision now that she's got what she wants, which is the kids?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, which makes me think originally how Agnes sort of like, because what still isn't answered is how this originated. We still don't know. Like, we have a vague idea that, like, Agnes is pulling some strings, and that Wanda has, like, overall sort of control over stuff, but we still don't know where it all originated, and which makes me wonder, like, did Agatha, like you said, Jenny, in our reaction, did she and whoever she's working for, playing a long game, set up this scenario so that Wanda would do all of this? Because is it just a coincidence that they're in the same area together? I doubt it. There must be some reason why she's in Westview to begin with, or why Westview is significant to begin with.
Yeah.
What's Westview?
Yeah.
Like, is there a coven there? Did Wanda go there on purpose?
Did Wanda join the coven before doing all of this?
Right. Well,
exactly.
Here's the thing. I think that's why they in that little musical number at the end with Agatha, I think that was to show, obviously that was to show what she did, and I I think it wasn't her who like created this, or I think it was Wanda, but at the same time, I think it was obviously there is a bigger threat. I think we can all agree with that. But
I'm like, even if Wanda's the one technically doing this, did somebody
Right.
create circumstances and put her in the
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
because we know
Yeah,
she
'cause
did
She didn't
something with
start it.
Pietro. It's still a little unclear, like the whole thing with Pietro and like her kind of involvement, because there was some like magic coming off him or whatever in that little clip that we saw from I think it was the end of episode 5. So that's a little unexplained still, but so general, yeah, she messed with the back in episode 2, the talent show, and then and she killed Sparky, which that was her. Everyone was like, she
Just to add insult to injury, she even
Yeah.
says like, "And I killed Sparky too."
Yeah,
Fortunately, the dog only existed for 5 minutes, so we
Right.
Yeah,
we weren't
wait.
attached
we
to
were
it. It
attached.
wasn't
Yeah.
Do you think that was to age the kids? Do you think there's
that's
a
what
new
we were
reason?
yeah.
surmising,
Yeah.
But then again,
Um,
why does she want the kids older? Is there a reason? Like, are their
Right.
souls not harvestable until they're 18 or something?
Right.
Or these
Yeah.
magic
Also,
don't manifest, probably because their magic doesn't manifest until their powers don't.
true.
Right, that's
Right.
true. Yep.
Yeah, their
that's
powers need
probably
to ripen.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, now that we have some,
Yeah.
Just like any wicked witch, fattening Hansel and Gretel up before.
Ah,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
See, that's why I have you on the stream, Jenny. You always bring in the relevant literary connotation.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
One thing about
That-
Agatha is she's actually a witch back from the Salem witch trials, which I do
Right.
think we're gonna have some storyline or some backstory with her.
Go Eastern Massachusetts, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Maybe they could do
shout
some
out to
filming
shout out
around
to
here.
Mass, but I do think there's gonna be something with some witch trials, possibly in a flashback. Definitely involving that book. I think that book is an old book.
Yeah.
So,
They didn't
Yeah.
just like it wasn't just like in the periphery, like it was like
Right.
glowing and like in the center of the frame and like
Yeah.
here's a magic book. It's very
It was made
important.
to be questioned.
There was that
Um,
weird thing where she said, I have this mole on my back, and like
Mhm.
one of the
Yeah.
things that like women were literally burned for was like you had a suspicious mole someplace. You're a witch. Like that was actually
True.
back in the days of
That's
Pretty
Salem.
much
cool.
Yeah,
anything. You're
a
a
mole.
witch. Yeah.
Heroic.
I didn't even know. That's
or, like,
interesting.
something unusual looking. I have a birthmark in my eye, and my mom always jokes that like if I had been born 300 years earlier, I would have been burned at birth,
Put
like
to
as
the
a witch.
stake.
because
Yeah.
Dark
birthmark in
joke.
my eye. So that's like I was like that's 100% like a Salem witch thing. Like she has a weird mole. She's definitely a witch.
Yeah. And the whole like everything about witches and like obviously Agatha's basement. Like it started with when Billy and Tommy first aged up, and it was kind of like the Shining horror vibes. But obviously, we're getting a lot more horror vibes from Agatha's basement, and I know Kevin Feige has hinted at like there's going to be a lot more scary horror stuff coming up in the MCU. So this
Blade.
is definitely leading up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blade.
There
and
have been so many like horror movie moments where they're literally borrowing like cinematic conventions from horror movies. Like last week this week rather, we got the like don't go in the basement. Like that's
Yeah.
obviously when you're a pretty girl, you don't go into the dark scary basement. Like you just don't. You're in a horror movie right now. But we had
Yeah.
like episodes of that like with Agatha, with Agnes before as well, like that whole scene where the twins became four, and we were both like, whoa, The Shining. And there were just these
Yes.
weird, creepy dystopian moments. They've been borrowing like horror movie conventions intentionally, that like anybody who likes that genre and is familiar is going to be like, oh, I've seen this shot in some movie before. So that's definitely coming.
Hustle Mando says she turned me into a newt. I got better. Jenny, you know that reference? Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they're trying to decide who's a witch, and they just weigh the girl, and she weighs more than a duck. So she's a witch because she weighs more than a duck.
That's
It's
my point though. That's like the weird things that they used both in the
Yeah.
Middle Ages, but also like up through in England, and also like up through the days of the Salem witch trials. It was weird things like, do you weigh more than this, or do you have a strange birthmark, or
It's like, does she float or something like that?
Yeah.
right?
It is just very strange
Then
thing.
a witch, yeah, exactly. There are all these weird arbitrary tests that like have no basis in science, but that were used to accuse people of being witches.
So
I guess they're
now
just-
that we got some context, what do we think? Like, what's the reasoning for Agatha in that one episode kind of stepping out of character? And I'm trying to remember the scene. But
where she was letting Wanda be
She
like,
was
"Hey,
like,
should I
should
take that to
Yeah.
the top?"
Yeah. Like, was that just to mess with? Because Vision obviously has a reaction to that. Was that just to like mess with things and start to like, implement her powers or whatever?
So
her
essentially, you're
influence?
saying like, why wasn't she more interested in keeping it a secret at that point?
Right.
Why was
Right.
it
Yeah.
okay
Or
for
like,
her to
what's
just
like
out
To make
of it?
Vision suspicious,
Yeah, I guess so.
because he was just very suspicious by then.
Yeah,
There's
that's
definitely
true.
going to be an
He was
explanation
suspicious.
for
And
the
she always came
sitcom.
to the door at the exact right time, so it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, because we obviously had the outside context of being able to see that
So
she
much
was the
because,
only
like,
character
Agatha
who
is
didn't
Mr.
have an ID.
You guys
So
know
we knew
Mr.
she was
Rogers
different.
when like someone knocks on the door, it's
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
McFeely. It's never anybody else. It's only Mr. McFeely.
Yeah. Yeah.
100% Mr. McFeely. It's always her. It's been like
Yeah.
quick for one time, but she was that was her too. So,
Yeah. Well, then we also saw in the beginning of this episode when she's sitting on the couch with the boys, and like she doesn't even like ring the doorbell and come in. Wanda just like magically opens the door behind her. Like they're just out in the open with their magic with the
Oh yeah. It doesn't even
Yeah.
matter anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't even
very
matter
true.
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
two episodes ago, I think, when Vision finally figured everything out, one of the things that happened was she did like some magic, and Catherine Hahn was like bent over on the side, and Vision was like, "What are you doing? You're doing it in front of Agnes." And Wanda was like, "She didn't notice. She didn't
Yeah.
even when the kids grew up."
Right.
She was being very careless with her magic, sort of doing it in front of Agnes. And of course, like now we know that she did notice, like she's in on the entire, like Agnes knows everything. But I agree with you, Dylan. Like it's a strange thing of like why she would have done that whole "what should I do" director thing.
Right. Yeah. It's
What's
like,
the point of that?
what's the like, especially now with the context we got, like where does that fit in with her plan? And I'm sure
Right.
we'll get the answer, but yeah.
Yeah. Did anybody else think it was weird that Monica went straight to Wanda's house and like didn't go seek out Vision once she got inside? Like I was kind of surprised that she didn't like look for Vision to get help. She just kind of went straight to Wanda,
True.
like broke into her house, and was like, "You gotta stop." So it didn't seem like the
Yeah.
best way to do that.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
definitely could use Vision on your side, but
Well, yeah,
This-
I don't think she. Oh, I guess she kind of could figure out where her Vision was, because I think was that tracker still active? Because I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Hayward had a
Hayward
Yeah.
had that tracker.
Vision tracker.
Oh, actually, you know what? We didn't talk about Hayward. He was
Hayward,
only in one
that's right.
scene. He was
Yeah,
only in
yeah,
one
yeah.
scene, but he did say like launch. We launched today or something like that.
Yeah, and we
So,
were like, what are you launching? What are you
do they
Yeah.
have their own vehicle? But that made it
That's-
sound more of like a militaristic like strike, like we're
Mm.
launching. Yeah. So that obviously didn't happen. So we can anticipate that being the like the rough situation in the next episode is Hayward launching a military operation.
I think he might just like,
Military,
literally
whatever.
like, let's bomb the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know he can put Vision back together. Vision is ultimately like digital. He can be that's what they were doing, when Wanda took the body, was they were like taking him apart or putting him together. They were doing something with his pieces. And that's all he
Yeah.
cared. It's funny because we thought that it was something not villainous, but something sort of desperate that Wanda had done by taking the body. We were like, oh, she can't let go of him. Her grief is overwhelming her and she's stealing a corpse. But maybe she was actually saving him from the bad guys. Maybe she was
True, yeah.
consciously preventing them from making him into a weapon. She might actually have been like doing the good thing by getting him away from Sword or from Hayward or whoever it is that's trying to weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we think this is Hayward? Do we think like Hayward is Hayward and nothing else?
Yeah,
beyond
somebody
that?
said Hayward could be a Skrull? Question mark.
That's
Yeah, I've
one.
seen that thrown
That's
around,
one.
I mean, everything is possible. I think it's more likely that like Hayward is Hayward, but that he's he's like working for some corporate bad guy.
So I saw somebody comment that like we were disappointed that we didn't get Monica's guy, and it did end up being like Reed Richards or something like that. But it was that major. What's her name? Somebody said, "Oh, she could be." What was the name of the Skrull in Captain Marvel?
Talos'
guy.
daughter.
Talos' daughter. Yeah, that could be Talos' daughter.
I
just
heard that
posing
too,
as
yeah.
as a military woman, right?
Like that.
Because
I mean, I
Skrulls
feel
are
like it would've been-
definitely aerospace engineers, right? They're
I
like
feel like it would have been shown like in this episode if that was really a thing. I mean,
because
I guess
she
that could be
implied
saved,
that
but,
she was very close with her mother or whatever. She said my
Yeah.
mother would have been thankful that you're here or whatever.
That's
so,
true.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's something with that.
they
Yeah, I
did
was
make
thinking
that
like, is this a
connection.
character from Captain Marvel that I forgot about, or so maybe? Yeah.
This is a stretch. This is a super stretch, but it is odd that Hayward's motives are exactly the same as Ultron's.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.
Just saying.
Hayward did have that one monologue in the center, the sword center, where he was like you weren't here, you were, you got snapped away, like you weren't one of the people that were here who had to like keep everything together for 5 years, like you don't know how hard it was.
True,
so
yeah.
like he's part of a pop. He might just be a human who's just bitter about
Yeah, that actually is
having to keep all the pieces
weird.
together,
To me, that's,
and
like, very believable.
everyone just gets snapped
Yeah.
back in, and all of a sudden, oh, you think you can just come back here and start telling us what to do? Like, we've been.
It's do you remember, Mike, when he first when it first became evident that he had an ulterior motive? The comment that we had was like, "Ooh, this is personal to him." Like it was clearly like very personal, like, the way that actor is playing it. And I think what you just said is actually right on the money, because
Yeah, especially Captain Marvel, right? He seemed like he was like, screw her. Like,
when you think about people in crisis, I mean, the whole world's in crisis right now, so we can all relate. But like when you think about humans dealing with loss on a massive scale, and the chaos around that, and having to pick up the pieces and keep living your life, and that's like what happened when half of the world's population suddenly disappeared, and everybody alive lost loved ones and all of this stuff. And I mean, I actually find that like very believable, and it kind of softens his hard bad guy edges, because I'd be pissed off too if a bunch of powered superheroes had a fight and then like everybody I love disappeared or whatever. That's a really
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
I feel like
seems to
you'd
be
have to
very
shift the blame on
anti-superhero.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, you want to kind of like wrap up WandaVision talk. John, you said you had like a couple of
I got a couple of things we can talk about.
extra things moving on from WandaVision. Talk about some MCU in general, or 2021.
Sure. I guess we can start with this. And I already kind of mentioned this to you, Mike, earlier, but there is someone that is there was an Ezra casting, apparently. This was reported by Kessel Run Transmissions. They're very reputable. They don't report on anything if they haven't heard it from multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
They called Ahsoka, right? They were like almost the first ones to say that.
They've called pretty much everything, and so it's not like officially confirmed, like obviously by Disney yet, but this actor is in the lead for this role. A lot of people were wanting Rahul Kohli. I am one of those people. I think he would have been great. But obviously, like the gap isn't that big, so it does still have to be a relatively young actor. So the actor.
Oh, okay, so yeah, is the Ahsoka series supposed to be taking?
Rahul would have been cast as whom?
Oh, Ezra Bridger is a character from Rebels. It's something
from Rebels. Yeah.
This is where you might get lost, Jenny.
I know. I didn't want to go too heavy into Star Wars stuff because I didn't want to.
It's all good.
But so the actor's name is I don't want to butcher this name. He's got a kind of tough. Mina Masood.
Oh yeah, Mina Masood. Yeah,
Masood.
The guy from Aladdin, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
The actor from Aladdin. So
he was great. He's fantastic.
I think that could work.
He looks the part, man.
Aladdin's
he looks
similar to
like
Ezra too.
yeah, exactly.
Similar characters.
You just look it up. It's like
kind of like a desert thief in a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. That's. I like that casting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do too.
Do we know that the Ahsoka series is supposed to take place simultaneously with Mandalorian timeline?
I think,
or is it
after? I mean, like, I guess there's no real word on the exact time, but it's
I believe so, because it's part of the Filoniverse.
Yeah, because
it's gonna be around that time. I just don't know if it's gonna be like after season 2.
She did ask, "Where is your Master General Thrawn?" or whatever, and that's we're assuming she's already on the search, so it'll be simultaneous.
Cannot wait for that.
And just like MCU, the Star Wars stuff is gonna have to be on a similar timeline, culminating in some sort of event in the future.
Right. Yeah. And hopefully a big movie or something big, maybe.
All right, what else you got, Johnny?
So
keep it coming.
Another thing, this is gonna excite you, Jenny, especially. Clark Gregg and is it Chloe Bennett?
Chloe Bennett.
They are going to be reprising their roles in Secret Invasion.
Oh, that's so exciting! Oh,
yep.
Great. Yeah.
So,
who are we talking about?
So Agent Coulson and Quake.
Oh, okay, yeah, Coulson.
Yeah.
Sure.
So they're gonna be in it. There's rumors of a Agents of Shield kind of reboot or another season, but I don't know. Another thing is that this excites me more. I don't know if any of you watched the Daredevil series on Netflix with Charlie Cox. He's supposed to be in Secret Invasion in the Daredevil suit.
So we're actually going to see like crossover from some of these.
Yeah.
We're talking about this, and I'm sure that you guys know this, but just for our audience out here, the deal with Marvel Television shows that are not part of the MCU is that like Marvel Television and Marvel Studios are two completely different companies. Financially, honestly, like it benefits neither of them.
Right.
To, go out of their way to share things or to, they're not making any money off of that. That's pure fan service. There are two exceptions, which is Agent Carter and Agents of Shield.
Right.
Which are, so basically every show that's out there, whether it's the Netflix shows or the Inhumans, which was a super weird show, or like Ways, Cloak and Dagger, all of these shows, technically they have continuity with the MCU, only in the sense that they don't not have continuity. Like there's never going to be any direct conflict that arises that would be, or they're not going to cast the same actor who's already been in an MCU property or vice versa. But the exceptions have been Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which had not only continuity, but content sharing. So they would get each other's scripts in advance. They used a lot of the same CGI.
Assets, yeah.
Although,
yes, exactly, same IP. And there would be crossovers, like obviously Agent Coulson and Peggy Carter are both direct crossovers from the films, but also like Nick Fury and Maria Hill appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a couple times. And one of the main actors, Agent Carter, ended up being like a main character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a later season. So those are actually like within, like more specifically within the MCU. So it's going to be really interesting if they bring in some of the like, I don't know, some of those other characters from other shows, because that just really expands the reach of this contiguous universe. So cool.
Didn't Infinity War kind of botch their timeline a little bit, where it's like they really had to work around it? That's what I've heard. I haven't seen the show, so
stuff going on. And I mean, there's the whole question of like a question that I had going into the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, nobody disappeared. Like, how likely is it?
Yeah.
How likely is it that like none of them would have been snapped? And it was kind of answered by the fact that they were traveling through like time and dimension. They were
go to space.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They were like time traveling, and then they went into the quantum realm, like the quantum realm. So that kind of like it. They never directly addressed that, but like, and you can like work your way around that. Like they weren't in this reality really, so they weren't snapped or whatever it was.
Right. I mean, that's how Scott avoided getting snapped too, because he was stuck in the quantum realm.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know when that'll be announced, but I think we'll get more info on Secret Invasion as it comes closer to filming and stuff. But that's super exciting, especially for the Netflix stuff, because I am a diehard Daredevil fan. I recommend anybody who hasn't seen it to definitely watch it. It's the best.
Yeah, I gotta get on that.
Dylan, I know. I've been telling Dylan to watch it. Mike, have you watched any of those shows?
I have not seen it. I'm more of a Punisher fan.
Punisher's great. Yeah.
Part of that as well. So they did the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Punisher, and then they did the Defenders, which was kind of like internal Netflix version of the Avengers. They all got together.
These are definitely characters that like I would love to see in the MCU eventually. Yeah. Especially Punisher. Yeah. I've seen some people point out that he could be like. He could mess a lot of different people up in a lot of ways.
They have the right. I think Marvel Studios just acquired them back. I think they're under Marvel Studios now.
I saw something about this. I saw something in reference to Jones.
Jessica Jones as well. Punisher and Jessica Jones. Yeah.
Acquired because I mean, I'm a ginormous Jessica Jones fan. I'm a
great show.
Like she's such a good character. That would be such a fun. I mean, it's so like she's such a like gritty, raw sort of real world character.
She'd be great in She-Hulk.
Colored cartoons. She would be a great addition.
She'd be great in
She-Hulk. Who was it? They casted She-Hulk already, right?
Yeah. Forget the
Lonnie from Orphan Black.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Is she like really tall?
No. She's short.
I know in the comics, She-Hulk's supposed to be like 6'10". She's supposed to be big.
Ruffalo isn't super tall either. He's
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
CGI constructions. So
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
She-Hulk will be CGI'd.
Jennifer Walters rather is like a human, but then
Right.
Jennifer Walters becomes She-Hulk in the same
Yeah.
way that Bruce Banner does. Yeah.
There was what else I want to say? Oh, I forgot. Something about. Oh, that's right. Okay, so Charlie Cox is rumored to be in Spider-Man 3, but I don't know. There's been so many rumors about Spider-Man 3. I don't know which ones to believe, but that there's going to be a courtroom scene. I mean, it would line up with the
because they're
Far From
lawyers.
Home. Yeah, so he might be one of the lawyers in that. So he won't be in the suit, I don't think, but apparently in Secret Invasion he'll suit up in that. So yeah, more Daredevil, please.
Fan service while also being like believable within the universe, because what happened at the end of Far From Home was J. Jonah Jameson came on and like revealed Spider-Man's identity and slandered it, a bunch of Sean Hannity stuff, and so maybe he needs like a lawyer, and these guys happen to defend superheroes. That would
I think so. Yeah,
that'd be a good way to do it. I think.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, Spider-Man 3 is gonna be big. Apparently, they're filming on the same lot that they filmed the final battle for Endgame for.
Spider-Man 3 is set for next year.
December.
Oh, it's December.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah, we had last week. I had said one thing that I was really like I would love to see, and I think Spider-Man is the perfect time to do it. Is like I said, is to have them bring a cartoon animated character into a action movie, and having Miles Morales from Spider-Verse be one of the Spider-Men that show up.
Give us Peter Porker.
All of the Spider-Men.
I want to see Peter Porker.
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham and the Nicolas Cage character.
So yeah,
cool,
Spider-Man Noir.
Just use Nicolas Cage and put him up in the outfit and stuff.
Yeah. That would be great. Oh my god.
Yeah, because I mean, if we're gonna start doing Doctor Strange multiverse stuff and WandaVision starting to like really play with like things can get really messed
up. Hinting at it,
like, reality can get really twisted. Yeah, I would love to see them blend animation and live action. Like remember that movie with Brad Pitt, Cool World?
I was gonna say
Roger Rabbit is the more classic example. Yes. But that's something that hasn't been done in a while.
Yeah. That would be crazy though. Yeah, because I mean we know that there's Into the Spider-Verse 2 is in 2020. Yeah, 2022 I think. So next year. We don't really know too much what it's going to deal with, but I think that obviously the multiverse is going to open more, and it could make sense for an MCU crossover with that. I think it very well could work, and putting together animation and live action could get weird, but also could
let's get weird, man.
Let's get weird.
I mean, they've got all these like 12 shows and 10 films that are already announced, and that's just phase 4.
There's some projects we don't even know about. Yeah,
exactly. I think challenge. Mike and I have talked about this on camera before, but I really hope that they don't like. It's so exciting to see all the possibilities blown open, but I hope they don't sort of blow it too far open. I hope they work to maintain like the narrative continuity.
I have faith in Feige.
I
think they'll do it right.
I have faith in Feige, but like I don't want to see that multiverse relied on as like a default retcon. Like it doesn't make sense, but it happened in another dimension.
That's what DC is doing right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I want my nerd brain to be able to like, make that weird serial killer map on my,
right.
And tie all the pieces together. Like
do we know what the Eternals, do we know what that project is supposed to be centered
Nothing.
Around?
Absolutely. I don't know.
Because I'm like, isn't Thanos supposed to be connected to the Eternals?
He's supposed to be in it, yeah.
Yeah, so we're making some Thanos backstory
already
stuff.
Too. One of them is Richard Madden from Thrones, and they've cast like 6 people, who are 6 who are playing Eternals, and I think they're created by the Celestials, right?
Yeah.
Kit Harington's gonna be in that, right?
Yeah.
He's the Black Knight, I believe.
I have seen speculation that we might get some answers about, like, for instance, like Nowhere and how he lost his head and.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
To remove somebody planet-sized, and I mean, again, I think that's pure speculation. It's just stuff that I've read online, but that's clearly like already in production because like they have a cast and we don't know a ton about it, but like
they're done.
Yeah, they're done.
I'm pretty sure they're done. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're I think they've even wrapped post. So I don't know. I think that's another film waiting, and as well as Black Widow, obviously.
Right.
Waiting like pretty much a year now.
Jack Schaefer, who went to college with me. She's a few years old.
Oh, wow.
I know Jack. She's really cool. So I'm excited for that film.
Wow.
Cool. All right. Is there anything else, Johnny, you had, or is that it?
Oh, so we're gonna get like a Disney gallery, but for WandaVision, which is cool.
Oh, yeah, I
okay.
saw
We're gonna
that.
get behind the scenes.
The
little-
making of.
Yep.
and
Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Interviews with all the cast and crew and stuff.
Yep.
Yes,
That'll
I
be
love
fun to
that.
watch.
Funniest, I
Awesome.
saw the funniest tweet that was like, "Can you believe that in 2008, Paul Bettany ducked into an audio booth to like record some quick ADR for Iron Man, and now like 13 years later, he has to do like 6 hours of makeup."
Yeah. He's in like the biggest show.
Do you know whether they've used the volume from The Mandalorian for any other projects other than The Mandalorian so far? Because the volume was like the main like technological breakthrough. That they had.
Kenobi is supposed to, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, they haven't used it for any MCU stuff though, right?
Right, no.
Not yet. No, there is no news about it, but yeah, not for WandaVision. I don't believe so.
Yeah.
I think we kind of noticed that at this point because I feel like, you can obviously the technology is insane, but you can kind of tell. I feel like it's practical stuff.
There's a lot of outside scenes and
Yeah. One little thing which is kind of cool. Danny Elfman is gonna be composing for Doctor Strange 2, which is kind of
cool. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Nice.
So that's because the same Raimi stuff and obviously the Spider-Man movies
Danny
and stuff.
Elfman's
So pretty
music
cool.
is always very recognizable, like instantaneously.
So that's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty cool. But that's about it for I guess it's about it for the big stuff.
All right. Well, if that's it, then let's wrap this up.
Sure.
Thanks, guys, for joining. Definitely been a good conversation. Those
Always.
of you who are still here in the chat, if you haven't been over to All New Nerds yet, go check out John and Dylan over at All New Nerds on YouTube. They also have Instagram and a very inactive Twitter, right?
Yeah. Don't use it much.
Yeah,
Gotta
go
get
over
better.
check out All New Nerds.
Gotta get better.
They have a lot of great videos. They do reactions like we do, and a lot of cool discussions. And hopefully, we're going to do more of these chats. Whether or not we can make this a weekly thing or not, that's still up in the air based on everyone's schedules. And
We're 2 for 2 right now.
yeah.
We're
And
2 for
obviously,
2.
like you don't. I'll talk about this stuff all day. Like especially, I'm assuming that the last couple of episodes of WandaVision are going to be nuts.
Oh yeah.
Insane.
It's going to be hard to keep me off.
Longer
of
as well, meaning there'll be like more to cover.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm glad. Jenny, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
thank you.
We've had a lot of requests on the channel for some Jenny action, so hopefully we can get you back in the future and we can talk some more stuff. Jenny isn't as much of a huge Star Wars fan as I am, so I'm going to have to get her up to speed on some of that.
Do some homework.
Watch the Clone Wars.
Catch up.
Yeah.
I want to watch the Clone Wars.
Clone Wars is like that's a commitment. It's like 6-7 seasons, and yet I know there is
There's
actually
arcs.
a list of like
There's a
essential
list.
Clone Wars. Yeah, like you can skip like a ton
I'll tell you
and just
guys,
watch
like,
the.
the reason Mike invited me to do the WandaVision stuff with him is because I think you knew that I was like a super crazy MCU head. But what I actually did was up to the premiere of WandaVision, I rewatched all 23 films in order of release. I rewatched both seasons of Agent Carter, and I rewatched all 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Agent Carter is a good show, by the way.
So commitment is not a problem for you.
And then, like, since it started, I've rewatched all the X-Men films, which was like 12 films.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly like making
Some
my way back
timeline.
to
Yeah.
figure out what I've missed. So this is my happy place right here. We'll see about Star Wars later.
Nice. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to everybody in the chat for contributing. And hopefully we'll see you guys all next week.
All right.
All right, guys.
See
Thanks
you.
for joining.
Everybody.
See you later, dudes.
All right. Cool. That was a lot of that was some good stuff.
Good stuff.
Right on, guys.